Okay, now I am.
Yeah, I have like this whole mental construct of lots of things, and saying like turning that into words and an actual definition becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway,
So
hockey.
to catch those up before I started recording, we were trying to define what is and is not a Souls-like game.
No. Specifically, we were trying to get Muffin to define what a SoulsBorne game is, because apparently he has a definition somewhere in his brain that he can't express fully.
Yeah. Do we need to do an intro though? Don't we have a whole like scripted intro, Toast?
Nope. We tried it last time. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna go for this one.
Yeah. Hi, my name is
okay.
Tim. I'm the person who's speaking right now. My pronouns are he and him. Go.
There you go. I'm Toast, otherwise known as Cody. Pronouns he, him.
And I am not a muffin, no matter what anyone says. And I guess my pronouns are also he and him. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is something that we're trying to do semi-regularly, at least at this point, where we are just going to get together with members from the Discord server, usually having kind of regular members, but sometimes fewer, sometimes more, and sometimes special guests, depending on the topic. And today we seem to be talking about God knows what, but at the moment, we're at least talking about SoulsBorne stuff. Now, what prompted the conversation that we're currently having is Toast talking about playing Bloodborne. He and I have been doing a little bit of a playthrough of Bloodborne, which I hope we can do again soon because I want to beat this game.
Yes.
And I refer to Toast as my accessibility settings for this game. I am not good with a lot of Souls games. Toast is getting me through Bloodborne, and then we'll probably get through all the other Souls games as well because it's fun.
So then let's back up for a sec, because that's great. That's a great place to start. And I do want to mention though that the reason that Muffin and I are kind of coming at it this way is that he has played every SoulsBorne game.
Every single one. I've bought them all at launch.
Now has not beaten any of them, but has beaten Sekiro. I, on the other hand, have beaten every single SoulsBorne game, but have not played Sekiro yet. And Muffin is trying to convince me that Sekiro is not a SoulsBorne game. And at the same time, yes, we're still trying to get him through Bloodborne.
And I'm a prolific gamer, but I've never played any SoulsBorne game because they do not interest me. The lore interests me, but the mechanics side of it does not interest me. So I will be an even-tempered third party moderating this lively debate. So it's also it's also January 8th at 8 in the morning Mountain, and it's goddamn early.
and the look in Tim's eyes says it's 8 in the morning Mountain time, and it's goddamn early.
Yeah. Just want to make that clear. If I seem less lively or less animated than usual, it's because I am.
Yeah.
It's because of how I am.
Yeah.
Really, it's Tim's fault though that we're recording this early. Yeah, so
I burnt the candle at both ends, and I have a fear of missing out. So, ergo, I do the podcast when I can on too little sleep, and that is a-okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And maybe this evening we will do another one with Roman on the call, since he had to miss the one this morning.
Yeah,
but you'll have to figure out who's recording it.
I have Camtasia. I can do it.
There you
go. Big deal. Okay, so what's the question now?
Okay, so I want to posit the question again, because you've staunchly said that Sekiro is not a Souls game. So I want to understand why, and then I want to break down why supposedly you've never beaten a Souls game.
Okay. So first, let me say that if there is an axis, like this one-dimensional gradient with Toast on one end and Tim on the other end, of Toast's love of SoulsBorne and Tim's disinterest in SoulsBorne.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a little closer to Tim on this gradient than I am to Toast. Like, I'm not smack in the middle. I'm a little closer to Tim on this one. Because I love the lore. I love the exploration aspects of it. I love the art design, the look of the games, the non-mechanical feel of the games. I love, and the aesthetic. The gameplay makes me want to stab a baby sea otter. Like, I cannot I
Okay.
cannot hang with it. It's this terribly anxiety-inducing experience for me. Beyond the first, level, the 10, 15 minutes of the game where you're like, oh, look at these little, parry, stab, parry, stab. Giant fat green thing falls out of the sky with an axe and wants nothing more than to introduce you to the business end of it. I'm like, oh, shit. So that is my experience with it. That's when my panic rises. So you would think that I would have felt the same way about Sekiro, and I did. But something about Sekiro kept me coming back to it, and I still have not been able to put my finger on exactly what that was, to the point that I was able to beat Sekiro. Sekiro is the only one I've ever beaten. Apart from that, I've gotten about, would you say maybe about halfway through Bloodborne on my own? Given where we started?
You had gotten through about a third of it on your own.
Okay. So
We've pulled
somewhere
you up to about half.
Okay. So that's just for context for everyone. Now, what makes a SoulsBorne game, as we said a moment ago, is there's this sense of like, I know what it is when I see it. And I if I experience it, I know this is a SoulsBorne game. But trying to nail down exactly what that is really hard for me, because I don't think that Sekiro is a SoulsBorne game.
But then let's clarify that you do think that Bloodborne and Dark Souls are similar enough in some kind of nebulous aspect that we can use the definition SoulsBorne to identify that type of game.
Yes.
So even though Sekiro has, and again, I haven't quite played it yet, so I'm talking out my ass here completely, has similarities in terms of the aggressive combat, but more in terms of stealth.
Far more aggressive than Bloodborne is.
Okay, but more in terms of stealth and I want to say strategy.
You cannot play that game stealthy.
Okay,
they market it as though you could play it stealthy.
Okay,
but if you play that game stealthy, you're going to have a bad time.
Well, I will stream it and prove you wrong.
There you go. Full stealth run.
You will find out. It's literally impossible to do a stealth run on that game.
I couldn't do it anyway. I'm far too aggressive when I play those games. Just want to run out and kill shit.
Okay, so I guess first let me say that Bloodborne and Souls, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Sekiro have quite a few things in common. They're all balls to the wall difficult sometimes. The Souls games are actually easier oftentimes than than some of the later games in the series, including Sekiro. They all feature this, the story is mostly being told through things that you pick up.
Mm-hmm.
The lore is something you have to put together and puzzle out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you die, you lose the stuff that you have accumulated that helps you gain experience, and you have to go and recollect all of those things. So all of those aspects are there, and of course, all the games are also made by FromSoft, and they're specifically made by, I can never remember his first name, Miyazaki.
Hidetaka Miyazaki.
Yeah, I wanted to say Hideo Miyazaki. I'm like, that ain't right.
Oh, what? So you're combining Kojima and...
I would never insult Miyazaki by associating him with a hack like Kojima. Thank you.
You almost did. You wanted to call him his first name.
Well, it was entirely accidental. And yes, I stand by the statement that Kojima is a hack. So...
Yes, Hidetaka Miyazaki.
We need to find
hate me however you want.
Hideo fanboy and get him in here to have a discussion with Muffin, because it sounds like he's got strong feelings on that. As an outsider,
I have strong feelings on everything.
As an outsider, I'd like to just like maybe put an anchor on like some of the definitions that we're using, because like we're trying to define what a Soulsborne is, and from an outsider's perspective, what I've understood a Soulsborne to be is like open world exploration, typically like a stamina based attack system.
Mm-hmm.
Large boss fights and crushing difficulty. Like those are like the 4 pillars in my mind of what constitutes a Soulsborne. Now,
Yeah.
using that definition, would Sekiro be a Soulsborne if we limited it to my shitty definition?
If you limited it to those characteristics, then yes, I would say that would make it a Soulsborne.
So that would make it that's probably where the confusion's lying.
Because some of those boss fights are just these huge things, you know. It's
momentous, epic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
terrifying.
But
where do they diverge here? Like where's the breakdown for you then, Muffin? Because
and that's the hard thing to nail down here, because there are so many games that have a lot of those characteristics. You know, if we're going to talk about things like the full open world kind of combat, and you know, gaining resources to level yourself up and stuff like this. I mean, there are so many games that kind of fit into that. So, and if we're going to talk about, you know, how you lose resources when you die and stuff like this, there are a ton of games that do that too. So there are these. The hard thing about having this conversation, I think, is that characteristics of the Soulsborne genre have, like, Soulsborne took in things from so many different genres of games and then spread them out again. Other games started adopting components of the Soulsborne mentality so that those mechanics are appearing now all over the place.
Then let's make it simple, because you're right. There are a ton of Soulsborne derivatives, we'll call it, or Soulsborne likes. But
I can't think of a more influential game series in the modern era off the top of my head than Soulsborne. I mean, obviously, like, you could say Mario, Zelda, but for modern, the current, previous gen, Dark Souls and Demon Souls created a new thing.
But to make it easier, From Software makes the FromSoft game, which we have now defined as a Soulsborne, quote unquote, at least for what they've been making in the modern age. And the reason that it's interesting to talk about now is because with Elden Ring coming out and the way that might look different, this is all just hyping me up more for playing Elden Ring, because it's a new one. I want to get my hands on it.
Yeah.
So I think that let's bring the definition down into that, right? Because the reason that we're hitting this, the reason we're hitting this kind of confusion is because we have a game like Sekiro made by FromSoft, which seems to share some of the characteristics of their other Soulsborne, the FromSoft game thing, in which you would classify demons, darks, Bloodborne together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So using that limited pool of 5 games, 6 games, where's the difference lie, right? Because if they're made by the same studio, then of course they're going to feel similar, because again, they have the same sort of look, same sort of style or feeling, probably again because they're made off the same engine, which makes sense. So then I'm just interested where the difference is, right?
Yeah, and I wish I could figure out exactly what it is about it that makes me say this is not a Soulsborne game. It's its own thing. Because it does lean into a lot of the same things that made the Soulsborne games. But I mean, so does Armored Core, for example. And for those of you who've never played Armored Core, this is also made by FromSoft. I believe Miyazaki made those games too. They feature the same sort of ball-crushing difficulty a lot of times. There's a whole lot of customization as you build out this mech that you're piloting with, specking it out with parts that you've salvaged and all that.
Tim's looking up Armored Core.
I am, yeah.
Obviously, has no idea what we're talking about.
Because I feel like I watched a friend. Yes, I definitely watched a friend play the Armored Core, some of the Armored Core series.
Okay. So that is another game that feels oftentimes like a Soulsborne game, but it is absolutely not a Soulsborne game. It's not.
Now, would you agree with that? You agree with that, Toast, Cody? Like, is that?
So I haven't played Armored Core, so I'm out of it.
Well,
I'm purely, you know, I'm a FromSoft shill from Demon Souls onwards.
Okay.
And not even the original Demon Souls. To be fair, I didn't play the PS3 one. I had a roommate who picked it up when we were in university, and he tried to sell it to me as, "Oh, this game is hard as hell, and you die and you lose half your life." And I sat there going, "That doesn't sound fun."
Yeah.
And then I got hooked on Dark Souls, and I played the remaster on the PS5, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show what I know.
Now, like,
yeah,
it feels like there's a reticence to call this a Dark Souls game because, like, you don't want it compared to that. But is it possible that you just enjoy this one so much that it is the seminal, like, Dark Souls experience? That
Sorry, are we talking about Sekiro?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm coming.
I don't enjoy Sekiro.
Okay.
That's
Why do you play these games then?
I don't know.
You're compelled to, but like there has to be something that's drawing you to this game, and that is causing you to want to defend it so passionately against defining it by its peers.
Can we then we'll take some pressure off Muffin for a sec?
Yeah,
because
okay, sure.
I want to lay out how I became a FromSoft shill, because I think that'll kind of help, and also, like, in talking with Muffin about this kind of stuff, I feel really bad because, again, to Tim's point, there's clearly something that's drawing him to these kind of games, but it can't overcome the level of anxiety. The achievement can't overcome some level of anxiety towards failure or a staunch, progression difficulty or something like that. So anyway, I started playing Dark Souls around the time Dark Souls 2 came out.
Okay.
So Dark Souls 2 came out, and it was getting really rave reviews, and I remember hearing about Dark Souls. And so I started watching, I think, a Let's Play about the first Dark Souls, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this seems kind of cool." Like, I get, I like the idea of fighting these big ass bosses, and the achievement looks neat. Yeah, okay, it seems hard, but I'll pick it up. I'll try it. I'll see what happens. Picked it up, got wiped. Had the worst time. Started having the whole situation of like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to lose my souls. I feel like I'm losing progression. It felt like I was clawing, to try and get forward. And then I hit the Capra demon, and I thought I was going to have a mental breakdown from the level of difficulty and unfairness that was associated with that boss fight. So I put the controller down for a bit. I went back and started the Let's Play again. Realized that I had made some terrible mistakes because I felt like I had like tried to wade into the game without fully understanding it, which it's a video game. You shouldn't have to fully understand it before you start playing it. That's fair. But anyway, I restarted, tried a different class that matched kind of the Let's Play that I was watching, and felt a little more accessible to me. And ended up getting past the Capra demon and felt awesome because I'm like, holy shit, now I can actually see the rest of this game. And I think I ended up completing that playthrough, getting all the way through. I think it took me like 6 months.
Yeah.
And it was hard as fuck because it's Dark Souls. But I got all the way through it. Then I started playing the second one, and I got all the way through that. And then I started playing Bloodborne, and I beat Bloodborne. And the jump from Dark Souls to Bloodborne was insanity.
Steep. Bloodborne is more difficult than the Dark Souls games?
Yes, because it's incredibly different.
Okay.
So Dark Souls.
But if you talk to some people, they will say that Bloodborne is far easier than Dark Souls.
Well, now that I'm used to it, I do think that Bloodborne is potentially easier. I don't know. I don't.
It's just different.
Yeah, like I've gotten to a point where I don't care about difficulty in the SoulsBorne games. And I'll explain why kind of potentially in a minute. But the big difference is that when you play Dark Souls, you need a shield. You're playing from a mechanical perspective to defend and then attack when you can. And the two main ways that you can do that are either to stand behind a shield, kind of sort of tank, but also just try and get through it and then do your attack. Or a lot of people were very good at rolling around, manipulating the mechanics of the game, using iframes, and just being good at owning the game in that sense. Bloodborne is like the developers saying, "Hey, that seems really cool, so no more shield."
Yeah, why even have the shield if that's the way you want to play? Let's make a game that allows you to play that way.
So Bloodborne is built more completely around the idea of the parry mechanic, where you have a gun, which does little to no damage, but constantly opens your enemies up for larger visceral attacks, which do significantly more damage.
If you time the shot right. It's a parry. Yeah. It's basically a parry with charges.
Yeah.
That's its primary use. You can also use it, to aggro certain enemies and draw them away and stuff like that if you want to try to play that way. But mostly the gun is meant to be, you have 20 rounds, unless you find more bullets or you sacrifice some health to give yourself blood bullets. You're using it as a
yes.
rechargeable shield.
Now the other central mechanic in Bloodborne that's different is what's called the rally mechanic. So in Dark Souls, when you get hit in Dark Souls, you lose life. That's it. Your meter goes down and you're fine.
Yeah.
In Bloodborne, when you get hit, your life bar, there's a little meter that goes down, and you have your normal life still in the same red color, but there's a slightly lighter red bar, which goes from where your life originally was to this point. And if within a set amount of time, it depends on if you have other things equipped, that lighter red bar will start to go down. But if you attack enemies, your life will come back.
Yeah.
So you can push that back up. So if you get hit, but you hit the enemy 3 more times immediately after, you get that life back.
Yeah. So it
pushes
really incentivizes a person to be more aggressive, because when you're getting hit, the only thing that's going to really give you your health back is hitting them back.
Well, you have 2 options. You back up.
Yeah.
You back up and heal, or you roll in and you try and hit the boss to get the life back. And I struggled with the first boss in Bloodborne for a while because I had to get used to that idea. Right?
Cleric Beast.
Yeah, Cleric Beast was
fucking Cleric Beast
fun. But after that, the Cleric Beast basically broke me to the point where I learned.
I died to that fucker like 50 times. Yeah. And then the next boss, Father Gascoigne, beat him first try.
Yeah, because it's like ramming your head against the wall until by the end of fighting the Cleric Beast, you're like, oh, okay, this is how this fucking game works.
Yeah.
Anyway, then got to the end of Bloodborne. Loved Bloodborne. Played Dark Souls 3. Really liked Dark Souls 3. I played Dark Souls 3 twice. I played the first game twice too, but and then I played
like a 20-hour, 30-hour experience. Like how long? I mean, if you were so let's take this. If you were well practiced and felt confident in the mechanics, could you get through one of these relatively quickly, or
30 hours probably playing by yourself?
Sure.
I would say Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 3 are 60 to 80-hour experiences.
Are you completioning them, or you just doing the primary stuff? It's hard to maybe separate out. I don't know.
I would be
Mass
very
Effect is also
careful
a
with
60 to 80-hour game, but
but you can beat Mass Effect in about 35 hours probably.
Yeah.
So let's be clear. There's an episode of a show called Prepare to Try that if nobody has really watched this, I highly recommend it if you have any interest in SoulsBorne kinds of games and you like watching Let's Plays. Prepare to Try was created by IGN. And whatever your feelings of IGN may be, this is one of the few very good things that came out of it. 3 guys, one of whom had never played a Dark Souls game, decided we're going to try to get this guy who's never played a Souls game to beat Dark Souls 1 before Dark Souls 3 comes out. Okay. And so it's this long form Let's Play where they do it. And then it was so popular, they did Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 3. And then they ended up doing Bloodborne, and then they became so wildly popular that they left IGN. They created their own channel called RKG, their own company. They are now incredibly successful. Their Patreon is like hundreds of thousands of dollars now for them. They are great. I highly recommend people check them out just because they're super cool guys too. They're very friendly, nice, and all this.
Because we could have done that. We could have made Tim play through the games.
Yeah.
And so about SoulsBorne games, so.
So I bring this up to say that they also did a special that was, can we beat Dark Souls on a plane? They were flying from the US back to the UK where they are based, and they had Dark Souls on Switch. And it's, can we beat this in a 10-hour flight? Yeah, absolutely they can. Yeah. Now, they are experts at playing Bloodborne at this point, but they weren't really speedrunning it.
Sure.
They had to still level up. They had to get the right items to be able to do things. They played that game with a knowledge of how to play it and where things are, and they beat it in about 11 hours.
There's a number of bosses that you have to beat without cheating to get through it. Yeah. Now, obviously, like if you're kind of middling, if you're trying to just take your time, have an enjoyable experience. Personally, I like beating most of the bosses and like running around and exploring stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's typically a 60 to 80 hour experience.
Sure. Okay.
Because you got to learn, if you like seeing stuff, if you like exploring, if you like beating the enemies and feeling competent in it, that's what it takes. Bloodborne, though, is much shorter, probably arguably because it's faster. I think that one is usually 30 to 40 hours. But yes, to Muffin's point, you can definitely rush through it in like 10 hours if you really wanted.
So I mean, if you wanted to average it out, then like it's not unreasonable for Muffin to say that like a normal playthrough could take between 30-ish hours.
30 to 40 hours.
Okay.
And if you look at howlongtobeat.com, howlongtobeat.com says that Dark Souls on average for players, the main story is 42 and a half hours. Okay. Main and extras is 61 hours. Completionist is 105 hours.
Okay.
If we were to go to Dark Souls 3 for comparison,
fairly close, probably favoring Toast a little bit there. So good job.
The main story of Dark Souls 3 is 32 hours. Main and extras 47 and a half. Completionist 95 and a half. Now, probably too, by the time that they got to Dark Souls 3, it was so established and people knew how to play it that it's going to be shortened relative to the original. Does that also include
the DLCs?
That's main story plus extras at 47 and a half hours.
Okay.
So, you know, your mileage may vary there.
I take my time.
Yeah. I also take my time terribly.
Or whatever.
Take my time because I'm terrified that anytime I round a corner, there's going to be a gigantic fly-headed monster that leaps out at me, even though Toast assures me there's nothing around this corner. You're fine.
So this is what I want to figure out, because I think it's weird because it seems like Muffin and I have had, I want to say, similar run-ups to this, and from an outside perspective could be looked on similarly. We both played both games. Yes, okay. Or we both played most of the games. Yes, I've completed them, Muffin hasn't. But there's a level of exposure to that. Having beaten Sekiro and I haven't, there's some kind of parity there, potentially. So the thing that kind of happened for me is that I don't know when, but I abandoned all sense of like care about what happens in the games, if that makes any sense. Like I get anxiety when I play them, but it's from the sense of like, oh, I just really want to beat this boss because I want to keep going. So
not beating the boss means I can't keep going.
Yeah, like I'm not hitting my head against the wall because I'm so annoyed that like the boss is cheating or anything else like that. Like if I die, I die. I don't care. If I lose 10,000 souls early in the game, I don't care. My wife cares. I don't care. I just care about finding the stuff, beating the boss, getting further, because I get to see more cool shit, and that's how I have fun. I used to, when I first started playing, I used to get very frustrated about, again, the Capra Demon. Oh, he hit me that time. I was at the stairs. That's not fair. He shouldn't have hit me. Oh, the fucking dogs ganged up, and I got stun locked, and I couldn't do the thing, and I died, and I hate it. Versus now, if the Capra Demon killed me 50 times, I'd be annoyed, but it wouldn't be like. I feel like it wouldn't annoy me to the same degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to play games that annoy me most of the time, and I can side with a lot of these things, but that's why like I'm so keen. I can play Bloodborne with you because now it's not, this game is beating me down, and fuck, it's Toast, no Toast, what did I do? Let's go again.
Camaraderie there. You've got your you've got your shoulder to cry on and to commiserate with. Misery does love company, and I feel like a game like this is absolutely like conducive to like a co-op or a couch let's play kind of.
A couch let's play, yes. Yeah. Now there will be a lot of people that get offended by the idea of playing this as a cooperative game. We can talk about accessibility and difficulty at some point too, but so we're really delving far away from the original question though.
Yeah.
So what we've been talking about here is what is the Souls experience like? What is the Bloodborne experience like? And I like how Toast has kind of described all of these things because it really sort of lays out what the step-by-step gameplay experience of Souls is. So, what then makes the Souls games different from Sekiro? And I'll start by saying, in some ways, I think we've done Bloodborne a disservice by calling it SoulsBorne. Because if you were to compare Dark Souls and Bloodborne, they are not the same game.
No.
But because they share so many features, people lump them together, call it SoulsBorne games. But the two games feel very different. And that difference becomes even more pronounced when you play Sekiro. There are just the way the game plays is so different. It is, if you think about Dark Souls, you can play that game in a variety of different ways. You want to be long-ranged, archer, you can do that. You want to be mage, you can do that. Cleric, you can do that. And these are all character archetypes, but you can build that out because the game gives you so many customization options in terms of abilities that you can learn, weapons that you can find, armor that you can put on, all things that support different styles of playthrough. You want to be fast and nimble and dodging all the time, roll, you can do that. You want to be this huge-ass tank with armor that literally looks like it's made of rock, and if you try to roll, it's going to go really poorly for you, but you can take a hit like none other. You can play that way. Bloodborne got rid of almost all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bloodborne's like, we'll give you different weapons. We'll give you different sidearms. But there's a way you're supposed to play this. You can play it with a fast weapon or a slow weapon. You can try to emphasize parries or dodges or whatever. But there's a way you're supposed to play it. You're supposed to play it aggressively. If you try to play Bloodborne conservatively, you're not going to do very well with it. I think most people would agree with that. So now let's go to Sekiro. Sekiro is like Bloodborne in that aggressive sense. You are meant to play this game aggressively. I think it really is a shame that the opening levels give you so many stealth options, and they emphasize those in the opening gameplay videos that you've ever seen of it and all this. Mm-hmm. But it made people say, "Oh, it's like Tenchu." No, it's not. Tenchu is a game you can play very stealthily the whole way through. You cannot do that in Sekiro. You will have a bad time because you're going to get to the bosses. And now, there goes all your stealth. Sorry. Some other things that make Sekiro different is that there are no weapons now. There is
one, right?
A weapon that you get to use, and that's not entirely true. There are side weapons that you can pick up. Mm-hmm. Mostly these are modifications to your prosthetic arm that you have that can either throw a shuriken or they can throw firecrackers or stuff like this. But they're like items that serve a purpose. There are some creatures that you fight and bosses you fight where you really want to have the firecrackers on your character because the firecrackers can stun that particular enemy. Animals are afraid of firecrackers. So you fight an animal, throw the firecrackers, it stuns them, it opens them up for attacks. Try to use the firecrackers on some of the other bosses, and they're just going to laugh at your face and hit you. So you need different weapons or side weapons to do different things, but mostly you're playing with a katana. The customization comes in by saying there are different moves that you can select and unlock as you're playing the game. But those moves then just become part of a move set that you are using as you play through the game.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has to kind of use the same ones. They'll favor certain ones over another. So this idea of character customization is gone in Sekiro. There is no character customization. There is also a difference between Sekiro and the SoulsBorne games in terms of the way the game plays. This is one of the things I've been trying to nail down, that I would say all of these games are technical in their gameplay. Like, you have to be precise and know how you're playing and be able to execute your game plan well. Souls lets you really customize that gameplay. Bloodborne narrows you down and says this is how you're going to play it, but you still have some customization in there. Sekiro, absolutely not. You don't have a choice. If you said, I'm going to come into this and I'm going to play this by just dodging all the time, I'm going to dodge, 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 and then hit when they're down, when they're exposed, you're going to die. No, this game says you need to get in their face. You need to learn their attacks. You need to learn the moment their attacks are going to hit, and you need to know when to parry and how to parry this one effectively.
So does this have like any sort of RPG mechanics then? Like,
I mean, super RPG light.
Like superficially RPG then? Like, it's not
very superficial RPG in the sense, like, there are skill trees, and as you move through those skill trees, they'll do things like you can carry more of this particular, sort of resource, for example, or it will open up a like new move. You can now do a like flying double kick sort of thing. You can do a particular style of Japanese sword fighting that does a lot of stamina damage when you hit them. But that's and I guess that's where the real difference comes in. That you have a stamina bar and a health bar just like any other game in the SoulsBorne series. The bosses also have a stamina gauge, and while their stamina is up, if they have any stamina, they don't take a lot of damage.
Yeah, you got to
so
break.
If you just try to whittle their health away, the vast majority of enemies, that's not a good way to do it. But if you can whittle down their stamina, then you open them up to the Sekiro equivalent of, a critical hit or a visceral attack or whatever, and you can kill them in one hit. If you hit them there, that's it. They're dead. It's a one-hit kill at that point, even if they're at full health. The bosses will have multiples of these that you have to do. Some usually 2, sometimes 3 or more that you have to do it. And as a result, this means that you have to play Sekiro in one way and one way only. And if I were to really draw a comparison between how you have to play this and another style of game, I'd compare it to Dance Dance Revolution. That's really not an exaggeration. It's the best connection I can make, that you've got to know this boss's rhythm. Like,
it becomes a rhythm game, yeah.
There's a monster, or not a monster necessarily, an enemy that looks like a centipede. I think it's called centipedes or something like this. But they're humans with swords, knives on all of their hands, and they're both their hands and both their feet, and they're walking around on them and all this. And when they attack you, they will go. They'll hit you once or twice, but then they'll do this attack that is pop, 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 pop. And you have to know that rhythm. And if you know it, you can go parry, 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 and you're just block, 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 and then they're one hit and dead. And there are a lot of bosses that have that same kind of rhythm. Actually, all the bosses have that same kind of rhythm approach to them. It's not going to be nearly so it will be back, and then you're good. And you have to memorize those rhythms. And if you don't play it that way, you will not beat the game. Wow. Full stop. Like, okay. Without spoiling the last boss, if you try to play it any other way than that, you're probably going to have a super
and a wrong way.
There is a way I've seen people cheese that final boss, but it is wildly inconsistent, and you'll do it many, 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 many times before you finally get it if you try to cheese the boss. The game wants you to play it away.
You had a question or a point there. What's up?
I was just curious. Sorry. I was just curious because, like, Muffin's he's got this distinction about the progression RPG mechanics and the lack of I guess the lack of character agency as far as like deciding how to play the game. Like how much do you see that as part of the core Souls experience, like for yourself, Toast? Like because I'm just curious, like that's a good distinction from Muffin from my standpoint, but like how do you feel about that? Is that agency like something that you value in the Souls games? Does this make you more interested or less interested in Sekiro?
So first off, I'm super interested in playing Sekiro now. Yeah. To try and experience it. I do think now I agree and I understand where Muffin's coming from, in that I can see the difference, and why you can at least make a distinction. And to be fair, as Muffin mentioned earlier too, lumping Bloodborne in with Dark Souls potentially does also do it a disservice, because they are wildly different games. They share a similar framework, and similar characteristics because of the company that they're made by.
Sure.
But they are very different and they feel very different. But at the same time, if I end up playing Sekiro and feeling that same level of accomplishment at beating a boss and that need to continue going and see how it is, I might play it and it might still feel like a Souls game, which the only way I'm going to know that is to play it myself.
Yeah.
And we might be back at square one, and I might come back at Muffin and say, no, I think it feels like a Souls game, so it's a Souls game to me.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I almost feel like we need to call it, like, if we're going to lump them together, we have to add it. So it's like SoulsBorne a row now. Like, it's its own, it's you're lumping together so many different things. If, like they said, I feel like
Born Souls.
Yeah, yeah. Shadows Die, Born Soul stuff.
Yeah,
like I don't know,
game.
but
yeah.
but there are, like I said, that those rhythm aspects are there. If anything, I mean, did you ever play like I think it was Soul Calibur 4 that had a single player? It had like a single player campaign where you played as just like not Patroclus.
Oh no, I didn't play 4. Sorry, I played 2.
Well, one of the
4 is just two twice. That's fine.
Yeah. One of the Soul Calibur games had a single player campaign where you always played as the same character. The female Greek warrior who had the shield and short sword, basically. Sekiro kind of feels like that in some ways, but far more expanded. Like, there would be some people who'd strangle me for saying that, but it's like, this is your character. This is the way that character plays. You can use different moves in their skill set if you want to, but this is the way the character plays. This is how you're going to play the game. That is Sekiro, and that's why for me it cannot be a Soulsborne game. I mean, if we're going to start saying that it's a Soulsborne game because it is made by the same people and feels kind of looks the same and feels the same in some ways, it's like, well, so is Armored Core then. Armored Core is now a Souls game. It's like, no, it's clearly not. And Sekiro is also clearly not a Souls game. It's its own entity.
Fair. So
yeah.
You know what? If I may take a very hard right, we can almost compare the different From Software games to different types of pets, in that we could say that like the Sekiro is the extreme of the Bloodborne type game, which we could say is like cat people, and Dark Souls is like the old reliable dog type.
And here I thought Rob Zachney was bad at segues.
That was brilliant. What are you talking about?
See, like, and I was thinking to myself, like, the other like monolithic game genre over the past like 15 years has been like roguelikes and roguelites. So like the distinction of rogue as a genre, to say FTL is a roguelike, I mean it is, but it's
like owning a ferret.
Yeah. Ferrets are just long cats. They're basically the same thing. There's discussion on which topic we should be doing today, and pets was one of them. And
Pets was one of them, but I'm having way too much fun with this discussion of what makes a game genre.
We didn't go that route, and Toast is trying to pivot hard.
I'm trying. It's not working apparently.
No, we're having too much fun talking about what makes a game genre.
Okay. Then if we're digging into this and we're going further, then let's do it. Because
we'll talk about exotic pet ownership in another podcast. Let's get Roman on here tonight, and we'll have conversations about.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about my tiger, but never mind. So we talked about, you know, all of this, and I just want to try and clarify a bit more and say, like, hey, so Muffin, are you enjoying Bloodborne now more because of the fact that we're making it more of a communal experience?
10,000%.
Yes.
These are not. I don't know how I stuck with Sekiro. There was just a moment when playing Sekiro that it just clicked for me. And actually, no, I know when that moment was. It was the first time you fought a particular boss that you fight a couple of times over the course of the game.
Okay.
Without spoiling anything, it's a shocking experience. When you play it, you'll know which boss I'm talking about.
Oh, Dark Beast Carl?
No, I'm talking about Sekiro.
I know, but I
got you. Playing that particular boss, something about the gameplay then clicked for me. And I mean, I was able to continue playing it through at that point. I don't know how I stuck with it, but I did. Souls never does that for me normally. Maybe that's another reason that I see them being so distinct from them.
Hasn't done it yet.
At this point, I mean, after playing Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Demon Souls far before that, Bloodborne, and now Demon Souls Remastered on the PS5, I've literally owned all of these games, never beaten a single one of them. They never click for me that way because they are so anxiety-inducing.
That's fair.
And I have the same thing with like online shooters, and so I will not play games like that by myself. But as it can attest, we played a lot of Apex Legends because it was then a communal experience, like me and playing together and commiserating about the bullshit we've seen, criticizing me for the way I've played, you know, like that's good for me. It makes games that are otherwise hard and unpleasant to experience more pleasant because now I have someone to talk to about it.
Yeah.
It's like playing couch co-op way back in the day, just through a microphone.
Yeah.
So Bloodborne is far more fun for me now as a result of that.
I do got to say, I wish I could have seen some of your reactions when we were playing on Monday.
Buy me a PS camera and we'll be good to go.
I feel bad about the fact that I said there was nothing there at one point, and yes, you got murdered by a fly demon. I didn't
get murdered. I survived that encounter.
I legitimately forgot that something was there,
but there was a fair amount of screaming and swearing at Toast for lying to me. He said, "You're fine. Just go up this pathway. There's going to be a lantern at the top of the hill. You're fine. There's nothing up there." I'm like, "Okay, I'm going around the corner." Thing leaps on top of me and.
Welcome to Bergenworth.
Fuck. God. That fucking game. But yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying it now. I've always, anything that's like cosmic horror, Lovecraftian, I'm going to probably really enjoy it. I like that feel of things.
It's fun though, and it's kind of I like, so I love playing these games co-op. As much as I do feel like I'm a little too overpowered, and I think I've removed effectively all sense of challenge for Muffin, which is probably bad.
You absolutely have not.
Okay, good. Can
I remind you of the 3 hunters that we had to sort of kite into this space, and I'm screaming the whole way and fighting them? It's like, no, don't hit me. Okay, don't. The fuck you. No.
Yeah, but we killed them. There was no problem.
Yeah, you did not remove the difficulty from that. You made it accessible. You are my accessibility setting, Toast.
Good. It's fun to show you this kind of stuff, because I do also need to say that, like, it's gonna get even fucking weirder from here on out. Like, having played through it, you're on the cusp of the weirdness, and it drops way off from here.
It's been Anne of Green
Gables. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see how you react.
Well, it's as far as that aesthetic goes, like, that's always had me. It's what I was most excited about Bloodborne actually when it first came out. I was like, oh cool, this is a Souls game, but with Lovecraftian sensibilities, and that's great. And then I played the game, I'm like, oh, it's much more aggressive and fast paced. Okay, well, I guess I need to change the way I play. And yeah,
Well,
but then just the world and the lore and we are
so
born of the blood, made been by the blood, undone by the blood. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? And it's
that's what's really cool, and I think that's a big difference for me between the story of Bloodborne versus the story of Dark Souls, right? Tim, have you watched an entire Let's Play of Bloodborne?
No, I have. I've watched. I think a little bit of like. I think Day9 did some when I was like watching a lot of his content.
Do you ever actually want to play it? I mean, not that me talking about it is going to super
do you
spoil
even own a
it.
PlayStation?
Yeah, I got a PS4 that's like sitting on the bookcase back there, but it's
Collecting dust.
110%. It's not hooked up to anything. I
Could be used to play Bloodborne, and you're missing out,
yeah
Tim.
yeah.
I feel like we
have a
should
PS
now say
camera.
something like, for those of you who have not played Bloodborne and have an interest in playing Bloodborne, here there be spoilers.
It's weird because the thing about like Bloodborne is one of the only
Don't
actual
spoil it for
stories.
me, because I haven't experienced it yet either. I've pointedly avoided Let's
No,
Plays and playthroughs
and it
of
won't,
this.
like I'm not gonna go past what Muffin has experienced, but like it's much more of an emergent narrative, and like Bloodborne hooked me and interested me much more because when I bought it and when I started playing it, you go in with this idea of like, oh, okay, I'm a hunter. There's some weird night where suddenly there are beasts, people are turning into werewolves, and there's this discussion of a church which was using healing blood and it's changing people
Yeah.
and creating these beast men. So you're basically told to go and deal with the problem. And you're like, okay. So
Sure.
you set out, you start dealing with the problem, and then the narrative starts to change. And it becomes this weird, like, it's not quite as deeply like Ludo narrative as Dark Souls, where you have to search through item descriptions to find lore and stuff. It does give you more cutscenes, and there's things you can read about some of what they're doing, but it goes to like, yes, cosmic horror level of people are dealing with fucking elder gods. And that's potentially what's causing the problem. And you're kind of like, what?
How the fuck am
It
I
goes
supposed to deal with an
from
elder god?
yeah, it goes from like 0 to that. And then the ending is even fucking weirder, which I'm not going to talk about because there's 3 endings.
Better not.
There's 3 endings, one of which is like so batshit out there, but it's super cool. And all I will say is it's not a spoiler, Muffin, but if you gotta find the 3 1/3 umbilical cords.
I have found one of them on my own before we ever played.
Find all 3. Well, 3 of the 4.
Well, I found one of them in the, I guess, the real world version of the Doll's Workshop. That I don't know how I managed to find that on my own without using any kind of like walkthrough or anything. I just stumbled across it. I was like, oh, I know what this place is, and the doll is even there too, like inanimate and everything. Like, oh, this is
yeah, and that adds this whole other level too, where there's the Hunter's Dream, which is this weird like non-reality space which you're like going into and out of. And
if you've played Demon Souls, it's the Nexus.
But it's even weirder than the Nexus because like
yeah, it's far weirder, but
you can
mechanically speaking, that's what it's role is.
Yes,
it's base.
But you can believe that the Nexus is like a real place somehow, versus the Hunter's Dream, which seems to be this weird, like ambiguous,
liminal space.
Yeah, because it's especially when you find the real space in the game itself, you're suddenly like, what?
Ooh, yeah.
I actually really liked your use of the word Ludo narrative there, by the way. That's like, so many people toss around that phrase Ludo narrative dissonance, and it irritates me because they hardly ever use it right. But that phrase Ludo narrative is like the joining of how the story is told through narrative and how the story is told through game mechanics. And like Bloodborne really fits that for
Yep.
me. Like, it is the definition of a good ludonarrative game where there is a narrative that emerges from the lore and the cutscenes and stuff, and that you can all piece together. But the gameplay itself fits that same theme. It is very visceral, very, in your face, violence, and you don't get that in a lot of games. A lot of time, the way it really feels like the gameplay matches the story.
Which is interesting, and I wanna hook this back up again because after the last podcast recording, we had a very interesting conversation about violence used in movies. How do you feel about the violence in Bloodborne?
I mean, violence in video games almost never bothers me. I don't know why it doesn't bother me the same way that violence in movies can sometimes, and violence in movies oftentimes doesn't bother me. It's the particularly like the horror genre, the way that they will oftentimes treat violence is very upsetting for me and my delicate muffin-like sensibilities. But the combat and the violence in Bloodborne just doesn't bother me. You're beating up monsters the vast majority of the time, and you're not watching wounds open up on them and all of this. You are slowly being covered in gore the more that you play through without dying, but it just doesn't bother me. It feels like it's in service to the feel of the game.
Fair enough.
The narrative feel of the game, I should say.
Well, and Tim, to put a nice little bow on this, I guess, before we start trying to ask you some other questions, I think we decided that Trevor also apparently wants to play Bloodborne now.
Nice.
So once we finish the game for Muffin and we get him onto New Game Plus, then we'll probably end up doing it again, where now there'll be two of us trying to get Trevor through.
Nice. And what I'll want to do is we'll link your Twitch channel in the episode notes so that people can follow, because it is fun to watch and it's really fun. With the
we need Muffin's Twitch as well, because I think we're going to start streaming it through his.
Okay, perfect.
Got to see what he's seeing.
We get both of them, because like there's always fun things with this group that's going on in those Twitches. So like you should pay attention to those. But yeah, if we're getting Trev into it as well, like that would be a good one to watch, because like I had a roommate who's really into the From games. And
I'd love to see Muffin try and like help Trev through it.
Yeah.
Like become the master and
oh, you be a fun dynamic.
Don't shake.
Nope.
That's your come on.
I feel strongly about it, but like sensibilities change. Maybe down the road he'll feel differently about it. But
well, my goal is just to get him to the end. If he puts the controller down at the end and he's like, I've had my experience, I'm done, then I'm happy. I will still need to finish New Game Plus 2 because I want that platinum and I need the third ending. So it's fine. I'll help Trev and
get it that way.
Beat my third playthrough of Bloodborne.
Nice.
Yeah. So then I guess the only other question is, Tim, what do we got to do to get you into Souls games?
I don't know that there's anything beyond what we're doing right now. Like I won't say that I would never play one. I would say that Bloodborne interests me far more than any of the other Souls games. Sekiro also sounds kind of interesting, but it would have to be like a handheld like walk through. Like I need a hand through this because I am useless at these types of games. It's not my style.
You will definitely not get that with Sekiro, though. Sekiro is entirely single player.
Yeah, but I mean, like someone could watch and like if I'm struggling or if we're needing a person to commiserate with, right? Like that is not one that I would sit down and just enjoy or digest myself.
I'm gonna commit a sin here and say that I've played every FromSoft game with a guide.
Okay, yeah,
because you have to. I have to.
Muffin is incredulous.
Not a guide in the sense of like I need to know exactly like what enemy is where or whatnot, but like I need to see like maps a little bit and
they get confusing.
Yes,
the level designs, especially like some of the earlier Demon Souls stuff. Like
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So
and they're I think they're intentionally designed to be a little bit confusing too. Honestly, that just seems like a very Miyazaki kind of thing to do. Like, how else can I fuck with the player as I'm
yeah,
doing this?
at least until you either get to a point where like you're not really concerned and you're willing to like just do the exploration on your own,
Mm-hmm.
or you have the paths of all of the maps burned into your head, which usually only takes one playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's kind of what I do just to make sure that I'm not missing anything like super big or obvious,
Mm-hmm.
or that might be super useful.
Yeah.
So
Super
that's what
useful.
I
And
do.
yeah, I mean that's totally fine. Like I remember myself like when I was a lot younger playing like GTA 3 and Vice City and stuff like that. I remember playing enough to not need the map anymore. Like if characters would tell me to go to a certain place, I would know where that is. I would know what street it's on. I could navigate there without any sort like I could do those games without a HUD. Um so like I get the idea of like yeah, when you're baptized in it long enough, you will learn to you'll learn it eventually. But I don't know. I think I would have to have a guide, whether that be paper or person, guiding me through the experience in order for me to get any enjoyment out of it. Just because, yeah,
And
video games are
I
a
hate that,
de-stressor for me. So,
and I hate
um,
that some people think that that's some kind of a crutch and that makes these
it cheapens the experience or whatever.
yeah,
Like,
because these games are inaccessible to begin with. So fuck it. Like
well, and
do
I,
what you need to do to
yeah,
enjoy them.
Yeah,
I think the whole idea of this like I don't know and I don't know if we want to go like super deep into that, but the idea of gatekeeping is so intrinsically tied with like the Souls genre and like the idea of accessibility in games and where you should or should not allow it because it cheapens the experience of everyone else who did accomplish it without all those you know I, fuck I don't get it. I could
I
probably
think we could easily do an entire podcast episode of nothing but like difficulty and accessibility in video
difficulty,
games.
accessibility, and gatekeeping communities in the video game space or in larger social spaces. Like it seems ridiculous to me the idea of gatekeeping, but
Well, like
Yeah,
okay, and I don't necessarily want to jump
yeah,
into that per se,
no,
but I do want to say that like
I mean, I have time if y'all want to talk about it. I'm just saying.
I'm
I don't know
good.
how much because we've been on this for like an hour now, so it's up to y'all at this
yeah,
point.
like
But
I think an hour is roughly like yeah, shooting plus or minus 10 minutes. I don't know that we want to dive too deep into it, but finish your thought for sure because this feels like a good
Well,
toe dip into
I
another
just
topic.
wanted to say that like I feel like anybody who tells you that like you should go into a Dark Souls game or a Bloodborne like completely
Blind.
yeah,
Hmm.
with no help whatsoever. I think they're kind of complete idiots because I think that that's incorrect. Um, because of the way that they set up the games in terms of where you find the narrative, um, how you're supposed to know about some things versus other things. I look at them very much more as like they're actually supposed to be a community experience.
Hmm.
Like you are supposed to go and find stuff. You are
Hmm.
supposed to go and either it reminds me of the old days of like you have to have a friend come over to show you how to find something weird in like an old N64 game that you had,
Yeah, like
right?
trying
Because
to beat the
they
water temple in Ocarina of Time. Like
exactly
it's just a fucker, and like you have to
it's like that.
yeah.
But now that we have the internet and we have YouTube and everything,
And Prima
people can people
Prima
can
game guides.
yeah, people can piece this stuff together and already have done the work.
Hmm.
So why would we not just figure out
I
how
think
to
it's
do
like a
it?
misguided just desire to have someone share your experience in the exact same way that you did. So like it would be like the idea that like a parent wants to introduce their kid to Harry Potter, and of course, like for me myself, I was introduced to Harry Potter right around the time that the books were being released, and every year I essentially like every year or two whatever I got a new Harry Potter book, because that's when they were coming out. But like, would I intentionally withhold the books from my kid if they're really enjoying them so that they could have one book per year so that they grew up with it the exact same way as me? No, probably not. Or I think Roman was talking about, how he wants to introduce his kid to Final Fantasy and start them off on Final Fantasy 1 or the North American equivalent, right? Like, it's like I get why you want to do that, but here's a myriad of reasons why that's like maybe not the best idea, because there's a way that you enjoyed it, and then there's a way that is like actually accessible that someone isn't gonna fucking hate themselves for, right? There's a good way to do it, and there's the way that the organic way to do it, and the two are
elitism.
Yeah,
is the right
there's
word.
that too. Well, especially when it comes to like the Souls things, right? Like when a parent is trying to do something for their kid, they're just that's like, just misguided. But like that elitism, that gatekeeping side of things is like,
well, like, because my experience, if I wanted Muffin to have the exact same experience I did, I would just be like, no, I'm not going to help you.
Fuck you.
I'll
be here to laugh
summon
at you,
people whenever you want, but you need to look up maps and sit down with your wife and beat your head against the wall yourself. Like, I play these games primarily on my own. At least the first time. I play through them myself. I like to do that little bit of discovery, looking stuff up. My wife enjoys laughing at me as I die, which is fun. And if I need help, I summon people, because for me, it's not about needing to overcome the challenge necessarily myself, but playing with Muffin is an entirely different experience, and it's also super fun.
So, and like, if you told me to play the way that you did, I'd be like,
no, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
but that's the way I like to experience the games first myself.
Yeah.
Right. I make my own mistakes and have my own experience, because that's how I like to learn and how I like to do it. But I also like playing. I like helping Muffin see the stuff too.
Yep.
Because it's fun, and his experience is equally valid. If he wants to get to the end of the game with my help, then fuck it.
That's the way we'll do it.
Cool. Yeah. And I think it's neat that the game has that baked into it already. Right? Like, yes, the password system is kind of a bitch, and the fact that you get kicked out whenever you beat a boss or whatnot, but you still have that ability to play it together.
Yeah.
Right? To have that community experience. And if he thinks that I'm the easy mode to help him get through the game, his accessibility setting, then
mode, maybe.
So I don't know, and I know that bridges into the conversation of does it need an easy mode versus not. I don't care. Have the experience of the game the way that you want.
Yeah.
However you find fun. If you don't find the games themselves fun, then don't play them. And if you have fun by summoning a friend to get through the entirety of the experience, there's a great YouTube video of God, what is it? It came out around the time of Dark Souls 2. It's called like Dank Souls or something.
Okay.
And it's an animation of these two guys just running through Dark Souls 2, and it's hilarious. And I'm like, oh yeah, that would be a super fun experience of just discovering the shit with a friend who wants to play it all the time.
Yeah. Just give a permanent co-op option in the game. That by itself would, I think, make. So take a note here, Toast, that a future conversation we should have in the podcast is nothing like, we should just talk about difficulty, accessibility, gatekeeping, what makes a game accessible, all that stuff. We should have a conversation about
whether
this.
Or not it's okay for some games to have it, or versus like explicitly saying they can't have it. And that's
because I can look at a game like Bloodborne and Dark Souls and stuff, like now that I am playing consistently with somebody else on chat, and they know how to play this game, they're helping me get through it, I'm experiencing it alongside them, it's a whole different ball game now. I'm actually having fun playing it, and I never had fun playing Bloodborne before. It was like there were elements of it that I liked, but I would never say I had fun with it, which is the number one reason I play games, and now I am. So like, why can't the game just instead of having it be that if you can summon someone into your game, but if they die, that's it. And if you die, they're gone too. And now you have to go spend more of this particular resource that is sometimes very scarce to be able to summon someone into your game again. It's this whole rigmarole of trying to get, like, if Toast dies in my game or I die, it's going to be another 5 or 10 minutes before he's back in my game or I'm back in his.
Yeah.
And that is just unacceptable to me for any game that is meant to have some co-op, element to it.
I can I see where you're coming from with that, and I can agree. I mean,
I feel like there's a devil's advocate coming here. And
no.
Toast, don't you do it?
No. So I hate the discourse that's always going around, and people are trying to say like, oh, it needs to have an easy mode, or oh, it doesn't need to have an easy mode. Like it, I don't care. The game is the game. Like they made it this way, and that is what it is. Yep. Like I don't care if they made an easy mode and it didn't affect the game itself. No. I wouldn't give a shit. I'd be happy that more people could experience it and play it, but it doesn't hurt me.
If they built in with it.
Yeah, if they built an easy mode and that was like suddenly the default, maybe I'd be annoyed because I'd feel like it's cheap, but then I just wouldn't play the game. I wouldn't care. But to the point of the co-op aspect, yes, I get that it's annoying because you need to kind of earn, in a sense, that ability to pull people in, and it requires a bit of knowledge and effort to have that co-op experience. I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I argue that it fits more within the narrative of the world, because by summoning people, you're pulling them from like quote unquote other realms, other planes, and shit. So having the permanent co-op doesn't fit as well.
Yeah.
And do I think that it would still be fun to have the permanent co-op? Yeah, of course. But to me, it's not a barrier. Right?
Yeah.
Like
it's
Muffin's left alone.
How deep they're wanting to lean into the thematic reasoning for a mechanic, right? So like
Muffin gets left alone for 5-10 minutes because I died because I did something stupid.
Yeah.
And so long as he stays alive, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
It's a mild inconvenience, but like if he's still alive, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I get that there's an elitism inherent with that sense of feeling like it's being earned versus just giving it to the players right away. But I don't know. I don't find that it's an issue.
Yeah.
Sorry, Muffin. I hope that's not too much of a devil's advocate, but
no, and I again we're kind of treading into what I think should really be its own dedicated discussion at some point. But I'll say that I agree with a lot of the sentiments you have there. Like, this is the game the dev wants to make. Let him make the game, and that's their right. Should every game have an easy mode? That's entirely debatable, because should is a loaded word. But if the game devs don't want to make that, fine. But is it a good idea to have it in there? Every single time the answer is yes. It is never a bad idea to have accessibility and difficulty modes and things like this in the modern era. And if Miyazaki never wants to put an easy mode or anything like that into his games, that's his business. If he never wants to make a game where co-op is kind of at the forefront so that it's not this stupidly inaccessible maze of sub-menus and crap, fine, he never makes it. But he is inherently alienating a huge swath of the gaming population that wants to experience this game because everybody talks about it, but they're like, are you kidding me? Like, you want... it looks great. It's beautiful. It looks like y'all have a lot of fun playing it. I want to talk about the lore and stuff with you. But you're telling me that the point of the game is that I need to die over and over and over again? And it's not like playing a game like Celeste where you'll die and there you are again at the top left-hand corner of the screen. Do it again. Oh, dead. Right back here. It's sometimes you're going to lose, half an hour of progress and all of your accumulated resources in the process. Like, I have to do that? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I mean, just something as simple as a button that you can turn on that says when you die, you don't lose your souls. The game opens up.
Yeah.
So much possibility opens up at that point.
Yeah.
And
so I don't
if they don't want to do that, fine. Should they do it? That's up to them.
Yeah.
It would never be a bad idea. And anybody who says that cheapens the gameplay experience, oh, you didn't actually beat the game, you never got good. Like, motherfucker, you don't get to tell me how I enjoy my experiences in my media. It's like me, somebody who is in a lot of ways, a real cinemaphile. Like, it's like me looking you in the face and saying, if you aren't watching this movie with a notepad and a self-lighting pen so that you can take notes about this as you experience it, to draw parallels and stuff, and if you're not thinking about its connections to this movie from the 1940s or something, then you're not enjoying this movie the way it was meant to be. Like, fuck you. Don't tell me what I like and how to like it.
I don't think
how dare you eat that without cheese on it?
I don't think either of us is going to disagree with you, Muffin.
No, there's going to be zero argument or pushback from anyone here. I think we can all agree that accessibility in games is a developer choice. However, the idea that their inclusion somehow inherently makes some experiences worse is wrong on the face of it. If it's an optional difficulty thing, it doesn't cheapen the game in any way. It's just an accessibility thing. Get over yourself. Is how I've always felt about it. And I think all of us sort of at least to some degree fall on that spectrum. Like, accessibility in games is good. If a developer decides not to put accessibility choices in games, that's their decision. But the inclusion of them is, on the whole, always a good thing, and accessibility is always a good thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean,
now,
a dev can choose specific colors, but if they put in a colorblind mode, did you experience the game differently? Like, fuck you. Like, it's accessibility. Accessibility is good, and we will dive deeper into that, because I actually do like that as a topic. So,
okay, fine. Then for the moment, the only other question remaining is, Tim, how long will it take you to get that PS4 hooked up and start playing Bloodborne?
I mean, I'll probably get a PS5 before I hook up a PS4.
Okay, that's fair.
And then
it looks really good on a PS5.
And then the PS.
So in other words, it won't be for like 3 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, then the PS5 will sit on the shelf. I just buy the tech because I'm a helpless fucking.
You gotta find a PS5 first, bro.
Because you're a nerd.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and
just if you really want one, you just go on the waiting list at your local GameStop, and they'll call you in 2 weeks. Then you'll get
I
one.
do have a final question for Tim.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we wrap up today's podcast. Is that an Aeron office chair that you're sitting in?
I don't know what it is. I bought it off. I bought it a few years ago. It was really expensive, so maybe it was.
It looks just like the Aeron office chairs that I have. This one doesn't have the headrest that my office at work does. Yeah, that's an Aeron office chair. Very nice. Disco would be proud of you. Yeah. That's a good ergonomic office chair.
Well, that was the
he wouldn't be
right?
quite as
I'm
proud.
going to spend money on a chair. I'm not going to get the fucking. I'm not going to get a GT Racer or whatever. I'm gonna get something that my ass is going to be able to sit in for hours.
You don't want to be able to put yourself into like a 5-point harness in your games chair so that you can't be thrown anywhere as you're playing something.
This was such a good podcast, and now we're talking about freaking office chairs.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. Okay.
And once again, we have a visitor for the end of the podcast.
There you go. Cool. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Since I sort of assumed the informal role of introducing the podcast, I'll take the formal role without anybody's consent of leading us out.
Yeah.
So to the Discord server, thank you very much from me, Toast, Tim, and my little boy here for joining us today.
Go play Bloodborne.
Go play a Souls game. Go play Sekiro. Be prepared to hate everyone.
Go find the links down in the description below. And we'll catch you guys when we do the next one.
Thanks, gang.
Have a good one, guys.